The Trump administration's unhinged war on American cities has reached a terrifying new level. In a move straight from an authoritarian playbook, Trump is threatening a full-blown military occupation of Chicago, promising to unleash his federal stormtroopers and the National Guard against American citizens. But the city of Chicago is sending a deafening message back. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. And we will expose this pathetic, unconstitutional power grab for the political stunt that it is. This isn't about crime. This is about a desperate tyrant trying to consolidate power by terrorizing a city that overwhelmingly rejected him. Let's get right into the bombshell threats and the courageous resistance. The pretext for this authoritarian nightmare is a supposed crime wave. After a violent Labor Day weekend, Trump took to his failing social media platform to issue a direct threat to Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, screeching, "He better straighten it out fast or we're coming."
President Trump, in a social media post, said that J.B. Pritzker better act fast or, quote, "we're coming." Of course, he has openly suggested that that could be federal agents as part of an immigration enforcement surge as part of this mass deportation effort. But he also publicly has said that he is looking to send the National Guard to Chicago.
And his lackeys are dutifully parroting the party line with absolutely delusional justifications. Just listen to the DHS Secretary Kristi Noem suggest that without the Trump administration, Los Angeles would be gone. It's a statement so detached from reality, it would be laughable if it weren't so dangerous.
This is, for this president and this White House, consistent with the distortion of the facts that are on the ground when it comes to the presentation and the justification of why he is sending in an increase of federal agents and the National Guard into these cities, from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., and now into Chicago. And a statement from the White House here this weekend, they write in part, Chicago's residents would be much safer if Pritzker actually did his job and addressed his crime problem instead of trying to be a resistance lib hero. And I want to let you listen to DHS Secretary Kristi Noem here this weekend as well. She suggested that if it weren't for the National Guard and the Trump administration, that Los Angeles would be gone. Of course, that is far from any reality, but I want to let you listen to her presentation as to why they are preparing in the days ahead to enter into Chicago. Take a listen.
This seems like it's more about Governor Pritzker's ego now rather than actually protecting his people. If he has one murder in the city of Chicago, he should be calling President Trump and saying, "What's your ideas? What can we do?"
But Chicago's leaders are absolutely demolishing this narrative. Mayor Brandon Johnson isn't just pushing back. He's drawing a constitutional line in the sand, signing an executive order to use every legal tool available to fight this federal invasion. He made it crystal clear on MSNBC.
In fact, I don't know of any American city that is calling for the occupation of their cities by federal troops. It's unconstitutional, it's uncalled for, it's unsound, it's illegal, and it does nothing to drive violence down.
Unconstitutional, uncalled for, unsound, illegal. That is the verdict from the mayor of one of America's largest cities. He sees this for exactly what it is, an occupation. And the people of Chicago are standing right with him. Hundreds have taken to the streets, not just to protest, but to defend their democracy from a wannabe dictator.
We want to take you now back out to Chicago, where demonstrators are rallying in part against President Trump's threats to send in the National Guard and expand ICE operations in that city. The mayor speaking just moments ago.
No federal troops in the city of Chicago. No militarized force in the city of Chicago. We're going to defend our democracy in the city of Chicago. We're going to protect the humanity of every single person in the city of Chicago.
The fear this political stunt is designed to create is already taking hold, especially in schools. The Chicago Teachers Union isn't waiting around. They're activating sanctuary protections they were forced to bargain for the last time Trump was in power because they know his brand of tyranny all too well.
Reiterating the message we have heard from him, and already Chicago Public Schools have sent a letter to parents acknowledging that federal presence could create fear and anxiety around school safety. Joining me now, Stacey Davis Gates, the president of the Chicago Teachers Union. She was one of the speakers today. You can see she's surrounded there by protesters. And Stacey, first of all, thanks for being with us. The mayor's office expects some federal operations to begin as early as Friday. How do you think that this will actually directly impact students, teachers, families in your city?
Well, it's already impacting us. In 2019, we bargained in our contract sanctuary protections because when this guy was in the White House the first time, he scared people, he intimidated people. We've seen the tyranny of his troops in LA. We've seen the unconstitutional practices of his troops in DC. What we want to do here in Chicago is protect our young people, make sure our families know that when they drop their children off, that we have them. And so we bargained that in our contract. We work with community groups and families to make sure that we are taking care of people. This time we've expanded that to add constitutional practices because like in DC, they've anchored themselves in black communities. And we want our black students to know and their families that they have just as much sanctuary in this city as our undocumented residents.
This isn't just rhetoric. Congressional candidate Kat, who is on the ground in Chicago, laid bare the horrifying reality of what Trump's federal goon squad has already been doing, kidnapping people and holding them in inhumane conditions.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen people in the 9th District be kidnapped by ICE, some of them being held at detention facilities that are supposed to be detention facilities where people are held for only 12 hours at a time. But because ICE doesn't want to do that, they're not given blankets or proper housing, essentially. They are sleeping on concrete floors and held for days or even weeks at a time. In my own neighborhood in Rogers Park, we have patrols, people that respond to ICE when or if they are seen. And we're seeing that across the Chicago area. My own campaign office, for instance, serves as a mutual aid hub where people can get food, water, clothes, but it's also a place where anyone is welcome except ICE. And we are seeing that at a lot of places in Chicago. And I encourage everyone to adopt similar policies.
Sleeping on concrete floors, held for weeks at a time. This is the help Trump is offering. It's not law and order, it's state-sanctioned kidnapping. And let's absolutely eviscerate the pathetic lie that this is about crime. The right-wing media machine, led by Fox News, has been screaming about crime in Democrat-run cities for years. But here's the reality they don't want you to hear.
What we've seen in cities across America, including Chicago, is that crime is actually down. But you have people on the right, including Trump, including Fox News, that are pushing narratives that crime is up so that way they can consolidate their own power. And that includes ICE. And I can guarantee that the majority of people in Chicago don't want masked goons coming into our community, kidnapping our neighbors off the street, and essentially just being able to do whatever they want without identifying themselves. Frankly, I think this idea that we need to send in the federal government, send in our own military against our own people to match up with a narrative that Trump has created, it makes no sense. It's unpopular for the people actually living in these cities, and it's dangerous. And Chicago has been through this before. We're about to go into Labor Day, which was created after the Pullman strike, when Grover Cleveland sent in U.S. Marshals and the U.S. Army to attack workers who were striking. Chicago is a favorite cudgel for authoritarians, and they're just doing this again, but we're prepared.
That's right. Crime is down. The entire premise for this military occupation is a complete and total fraud, manufactured by Trump and his propaganda arm to justify consolidating power. They create the fear, then offer their brutal solution. When asked what actually reduces crime, the answer is simple, progressive, and everything the GOP despises: investing in people.
The biggest way you can fight crime is meeting people's material needs. This goes for almost every negative consequence we see across the country, across the world. When people's material needs are met, they are less likely to fall for misinformation. They are more likely to be able to get education. They can afford housing. They can live lives that all of us want to live. But the problem is our system is built that the average American can't afford housing, groceries, or healthcare. It's what I call basic existence, which you can find on my website, catforillinois.com. But it's a very simple concept in most of our peer countries. Yet here we act as if it's some pipe dream.
Meeting people's material needs, that's how you build safe communities. Not by sending in masked, unidentified federal agents to snatch people off the streets, a tactic so un-American, it's almost unbelievable. These aren't peacekeepers, they're a secret police force.
I think every single city in the country should adopt similar tactics. Having masked men who don't have to identify themselves on the street it's not only scary, it's incredibly dangerous. We're already seeing people be imposters of ICE agents and assaulting women that they just take off the street. This is the precedent that we're setting. And I think we can't pretend like this is fine. It's not alarmist to say that these are goons. This is a secret police that is going into our cities to kidnap people, abduct people off the streets, many of whom have not committed any crimes, many of whom are American citizens. And I really encourage our leaders to recognize the seriousness of this and communicate it. It's the same with RFK Jr. right now. We need to tell Americans, you need to get vaccinated now while you still can. You need to fight back against ICE now while you still can. You need to be getting everything you possibly can to prepare for the rest of this administration, so that way we can build something better after.
A secret police that kidnaps people. Let that sink in. This is why Mayor Johnson's executive order is so crucial, and why communities are organizing their own patrols. They know that these agents are not heroes. They are cowards who hide behind masks because they know what they are doing is wrong.
Okay, you say fight against ICE right now. I'm curious to get your thoughts on what needs to be done to defend immigrant communities in Chicago. What does that look like when you say fight against ICE?
Yeah, what we've seen over and over again is ICE agents are cowards. When neighborhoods say, get out of our neighborhood, they do. I was protesting at the detention facility out in Broadview, and they called in Uber Eats for dinner and made the driver come inside because they were scared of a bunch of peaceful protesters that were standing outside. That is why they wear masks. They know what they're doing is wrong. It is important, especially if you have a platform, if you have a privilege, if you have power, to stand against these people. Call them out publicly.
Legally, Trump's entire plan is a house of cards. An MSNBC legal analyst absolutely destroyed the administration's flimsy legal standing, pointing out that the president can only deploy armed forces to quell an insurrection or domestic violence that a state is unable or unwilling to handle. Protests and crime are not an insurrection.
Well, they will, as California did, file a lawsuit. President will send them in. Legally, he's not really authorized because the president can use armed forces in a state when he needs to quell an insurrection or domestic violence, and the state is unable to do so or fails to do so. It's hard to say that because there's crime in Chicago, that's an insurrection or domestic violence. There is no outrageous riot going on, out of control riot. These people are marching. So that's no basis really for him to do it. That does not mean the president is not going to do it. Federal and state, local law enforcement work together all the time. I worked with the DEA when I was a state prosecutor. What we're talking about here is not a partnership of federal law enforcement, state and local. We're talking about the president sending in armed forces, the National Guard. That is not a partnership.
This isn't a partnership. It's a hostile takeover. And as one Democratic strategist pointed out, let's not ignore the disgusting, racist undercurrent here. This is a targeted attack on cities with large communities of color and, specifically, on their black leaders.
First of all, the fact that this president is undermining, is talking about reducing crime, but what he's really doing when you look at it is going after and undermining the power of black leaders in largely majority black cities or cities with majority people of color. So that in and of itself tells you that there is some kind of underlying motive here, that this is more than just about bringing crime down. It is an attack on leaders of color who form the basis of the Democratic Party. So, I don't think it undermines the Democratic mission or movement, if you will. The fact is there are legitimate ways to bring crime down without having troops on the ground, period.
They aren't just fighting crime. They are fighting the growing political power of black leaders who form the very base of the Democratic Party. So what's the real story? An unhinged president is using a manufactured crisis as a pretext to launch an illegal, unconstitutional, and politically motivated military occupation of an American city. He's sending in a secret police force to terrorize communities and undermine duly elected black leaders. But Chicago is not afraid. They are organized, they are defiant, and they are fighting back. From the mayor's office to the teachers' union, to the people in the streets, they are showing the entire country what it looks like to stand up to a bully and a tyrant. This is a defining moment in the fight for American democracy. We must all be watching, and we must all be ready to resist. This is Capitol Watch, and we will never stop watching.